In a sun-scorched village, where the earth cracked like ancient pottery, lived an elder named Musa. For generations, his family had tilled this land, their hands shaping the soil with the wisdom of their ancestors. Musa, with his weathered face and calloused palms, was a living testament to this legacy. He farmed as his father and his father's father had, using methods passed down through time. He'd read the sky, listen to the wind, and trusted the old ways. But the sky had grown silent, and the wind offered no relief. A relentless drought held the land in its grip. Musa's once green fields were now a tapestry of brown and yellow, his crops withering under the unforgiving sun. Each dawn, he'd walk his land, his heart heavy with the sight of his failing harvest. He was a respected elder, a pillar of the community, but even pillars can crumble when the ground beneath them gives way. The whispers of a changing world were growing louder, but Musa clung to the echoes of the past, praying for the rains that never came. While Musa's fields thirsted, a new energy was taking root elsewhere in the village. The younger generation of farmers, led by the bright and resourceful Kofi, were not just waiting for the sky to change its mind. They were changing the land itself. They dug channels for irrigation, guiding precious water from a distant stream to their fields. They practiced crop rotation, planting resilient varieties that nourished the soil instead of depleting it. Their farms were oases of vibrant green in a desert of dust and despair. Their success was a loud, undeniable proclamation that old ways were no longer enough. Kofi, respectful of his elders, saw Musa's struggle. He and the other young farmers approached the old man, their hands extended in a gesture of help. "Elder Musa," Kofi said gently, "let us share what we have learned. We can bring water to your fields, help you plant new seeds." But Musa's pride was as deep-rooted as the oldest baobab tree. To him, their offer felt like a criticism, a judgment on a lifetime of tradition. He saw their newfangled tools and techniques not as innovation, but as a betrayal of their heritage. "My ancestors fed our people from this very land," he replied, his voice firm. "Their wisdom is all I need. The rains will come." He turned his back on their offer, his heart a stubborn knot of pride and fear. He would not, could not, admit that the world he knew was disappearing with every cloudless day. The seasons turned, but the drought held on with a cruel tenacity. Musa toiled, planting the same seeds, saying the same prayers, but the earth gave back nothing but dust. The day he walked his fields and saw the last of his maize stalks, brittle and lifeless, was the day something inside him finally broke. The harvest wasn't just small, it was non-existent. The silence of his empty granary was deafening. That evening, as the sun bled across the horizon, a deep sense of despair settled over him. He felt like a failure not just to himself, but to the long line of ancestors who had entrusted him with their legacy. The weight of it all was crushing. He had nothing. Driven by a desperate curiosity he wouldn't admit even to himself, he walked to the edge of his property, his steps heavy. He hid behind a cluster of acacia trees and looked out at the neighboring farms. The sight struck him with the force of a physical blow. Kofi's fields, and those of the other young farmers, were thriving. They were lush green and heavy with produce. He saw the intricate network of irrigation channels glistening in the twilight, the neat rows of diverse crops standing tall and strong. He watched as they worked together, their laughter carrying on the evening breeze. There was no magic here, no secret miracle. It was science, hard work, and a willingness to see the world as it was, not as it used to be. In that moment, hidden in the shadows, Musa's pride shattered. He saw not a betrayal of tradition, but an evolution of it. He finally understood. His methods, the wisdom of his ancestors, were not wrong, but they were incomplete in this new, harsher world. The earth had changed, and he had refused to change with it. The sight of their success wasn't a source of envy anymore, it was a beacon of hope. The next morning, the village saw something they never expected. Musa, the proud elder who had always walked with his head held high, made his way to Kofi's farm. His steps were slow, deliberate, each one a surrender of his stubborn pride. He found Kofi checking the water flow in one of his irrigation ditches. The young man looked up, surprised to see the elder. Musa didn't waste time with pleasantries. He looked Kofi in the eye, his gaze clear and steady, and for the first time, open. "Kofi," he said, his voice quiet but firm, "I was wrong. My fields are dead, and yours are alive. I have held onto the past so tightly that I have choked the future." He paused, taking a breath that seemed to release years of resistance. "I am too old to be a fool. Will you teach me?" Kofi's face broke into a warm, respectful smile. There was no hint of "I told you so," only compassion. "It would be an honor, Elder Musa," he replied. Word spread quickly through the village. This was more than just one man asking for help. It was a bridge being built between generations. The community rallied. The young farmers, led by Kofi, descended on Musa's barren land. They didn't just give him advice, they brought their tools and their energy. They worked alongside the old man, digging channels, preparing the soil, and showing him which two crops would thrive. They shared their knowledge of water conservation and pest control, and in return, Musa shared his own wisdom, the subtle signs of the soil's health, the best times to plant by the moon. Knowledge that wasn't written in any book. It was a beautiful exchange, a weaving of old and new. Under the community's care and the blend of new techniques and ancient wisdom, Musa's farm was reborn. Water, guided by the new irrigation channels, flowed across the thirsty land. Resilient seeds sprouted, and soon, his fields were a patchwork of green. Healthier and more abundant than he had ever seen, the first harvest was a celebration for the entire village. Musa's granary, once silent and empty, was now overflowing. But more than the crops had grown, Musa himself had transformed. He was still the respected elder, a keeper of stories and traditions. But now, he was also a symbol of adaptation and humility. He spent his days not just tending his own flourishing farm, but walking with the younger generation, his presence a bridge between the past and the future. He taught them the old songs and the stories of the land, while they taught him about soil chemistry and drip irrigation. He learned that tradition was not a rigid monument to be defended, but a living river, fed by new streams of knowledge. Musa became a new kind of elder, one who understood that true wisdom isn't about knowing everything, it's about being willing to learn. And he taught everyone the most valuable lesson of all, that our greatest strength is not in clinging to what was, but in bravely embracing what can be. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share it with others.